So we're going to be starting off round one here of the 2004 tournament that was held last Friday. And the matchup is going to be, I believe it's going to be a Gorebyss Crobat deck versus a Exploud deck. Anybody who's talked to me a lot about 2004, you know I'm a big fan of Exploud. I think Exploud's a great deck. It's got a couple of rough matchups, but I think it's very, very, very strong. Props to the Gorebyss here for throwing out the good luck. Exploud's doing the same thing. Perfect. I love to see the sportsmanship in these games. Yeah, it's a tournament, but let's be decent people while we're at it. Now, I'm gonna say Dunsparce starts from both of them. Absolutely great. Love to see that. It looks like it's going to shape up to be a pretty good game here. The one thing I'm just to be a little critical on is that the Exploud player, he's not going to want to do those double sets at the start of the game. Something like a Warp Point, or even if we're playing against another Exploud deck with a Wishmer, switches that basic back. Excuse me. It's just a bad habit to get into to double set. You don't want to do that. There's nothing in this format that's going to punish you for it. Opponent goes ahead and switches here. Gorebyss goes ahead and switches here. I think that's a little... I don't know if I would have switched there. I think it's probably okay. But, you're not really... Protecting the grass energy isn't really as important, but yeah, it's probably an okay switch. You know your opponent's going to strike and run. You're going to go into the Golbat for sure. Yeah, I take that back. That's probably an okay switch. Has the Steven's Advice in hand to draw off what he knows is going to be 6 cards here. Everything's looking pretty standard all around. Only thing I do want to note here is it does look like our opponent is playing the Wishmer from... Is that Ruby Sapphire? But basically he's playing the Supersonic and Pound Wishmer. I actually hate that. That's probably pretty good. I think in my list I had the Push Aside Wishmer. I think I caught so many people just double setting in this format that it just seemed a little bit better to play that one. But, in all honesty, this is probably the superior Wishmer if players are kind of getting a little bit better about not double setting. This one is for sure probably the stronger Wishmer. Just for that first turn chance of confusion, so good. Gets a great Steven's Advice off for 6. Has that Golbat in hand, couple of supporters. Everything's looking pretty darn good for the Crobat player. And then at the same time, too, Wishmer he's got the Magneton in play, he's got the Delcatty in play. Everything's looking pretty good. Here, so plays an Oracle. It doesn't look like he had the energy to energy draw with it, but the plus side of that is going to be that he probably put a Steven's Advice on top, and then he's just going to look to transition into an Exploud very early. Now, this matchup in particular, I think is really interesting because I think Exploud is probably one of the best decks in 2004. It obviously struggles against fighting decks here, but Crobat is one of those decks that actually has a ton of tools to put some early pressure on Exploud and really, really try to put them on the back foot, which is not something that's very common in this format. Now, I am going to say that I think it's rough because that Crobat has, like I said, a lot of tools to deal with that Exploud. On the opposite side of that, though, the Exploud has a lot of tools to deal with Crobat Gorebyss. Those DREs, he's going to have to be so careful playing those down because of ATM Rock. If he doesn't play those DREs very good, he can see an ATM Rock just really, really do a lot of damage. Personally, I guess the ordering doesn't matter too much. I would have liked to have seen the Stevens go off first and then the energy draw. I think that would have been slightly better just so we would have seen the entire hand. But I'm not, that's nitpicky at that point. It looks like that must have been a Flutter Trick last turn. Whiffed on it. Gets a double Loudred. He's setting up alright here. Nothing too bad. He'll need to find that Magneton and some Explods, but other than that, he's doing pretty good. At this point, I don't think Shaman's bad here. I don't think Copycat's bad here. Definitely bench the Clamperl. That Pokebody is going to protect it from any sort of actual Exploud damage, so I think both those plays are pretty solid. Has a Desert Ruins in play. This is also, I mean, it's not as big in this matchup. Opponent's just going to pitch it to Magneton, but yep, take the triple poison. Never pass up a knockout to try to do a flutter trick. Definitely do that triple poison. So opponent has pretty good all around here. Let's see what we got. He does have that Exploud. He's looking good on everything. He just has to find that Magneton. He just needs to find that Magneton. And really good bench management by this Crobat Gorebyss player here to avoid having just basically not putting stuff down that's going to take a bunch of breaking sound damage. He's going to limit his opponent to only spreading 30, which is very reasonable, I think. Oracle's coming down. He's definitely going to be looking for a probably for that Magneton. Really wants to find that Magneton. Yep, doesn't energy draw there. I'd love to see that Magneton come down this turn. Gets a second Exploud. Yep, totally fine. Probably said I would probably have stacked, like I said, Magneton Exploud. Worries me a little bit we didn't see a Magneton there. I hope that's not prized for him. If it's in the deck, he definitely should have grabbed it. So he's kind of in an awkward spot. He doesn't really want to drop the Zubat or Gorebyss, but he also really wants the Steven's Advice. Yeah, hold the Gorebyss. You know you got to hold that. Don't get too crazy. Don't get too crazy. Yep, and then did exactly what he had to do to get that Stevens off. I'm just going to go ahead, probably just triple poison here. Put that pressure on. This can be very awkward for the Crobat Gorebyss, or this can be very awkward for Exploud. I'm a big fan of like Warp Point in this deck. Warp Point and Warp Energy I play in my list. I'm not a huge fan of Brainy's Compassion and Exploud. I think Pokemon Nurse is going to be superior in a lot of matchups, but this is one of those matchups where I do think Brainy's is better. I think Brainy's is better in this matchup, and it's better against in the mirror matchup than Pokemon Nurse is. But this is going to be one of those matchups where, if he's playing Brainy's is definitely better in this matchup. We'll just have to see what he's playing. If he doesn't actually, have it, it's going to be a little more interesting. Goes ahead, Breaking Sounds here. This is totally fine. He's going to have to transition into the... No, he can just Flutter Trick here. So what's he going to do? Definitely get that energy on board. Yeah, play pretty conservatively here, and he can just Flutter Trick for a knockout. He doesn't need to do anything too crazy. Just stick to the strategy. You're fine. He's playing a little bit of math. Double checking he's right. Don't blame it all on this. Nah, just Flutter Trick. What's he going to do? Even a Boost Energy is not going to knock you out. Yeah, just do the Flutter Trick. Opponent recognizes that. He does get a... I think that was a Tails on the Flutter Trick. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate for him, but at the same time, too, I get it. Great copycat coming out of the Exploud player. He's really going to be... He's got to set up a second Exploud. He's really going to be looking for that Blossom. And then it's going to get interesting here because the Exploud is only spreading for 4 prizes. And this doesn't come up very often because a lot of the time you're going to be spreading for like 6 prizes. Like all 6, your opponent's going to just fill the board. And you're just going to be, every single turn you're going to be spreading to 6 Pokemon. This time he's only spreading to 4. So it's going to be a little bit trickier. That's why Exploud does so well against, I would say, the bigger decks in the format. Like Blaziken's a very positive matchup. Gardevoir is a very positive matchup. Swampert can be a little tricky with the EX, but you want to play against those decks that just have to fill their bench, and they don't have stuff like Clamperl that kind of takes that damage away. So this is going to be an interesting game out of the Exploud player here. He's going to have to spread through the 4 of them, and then he's going to have to he's going to have to somehow still come up with those last couple of prizes. And he'll have some options. He might even be looking to that Blossom for help. Just kind of depends on how it all goes. But the Crobat Gorebyss player, I think, is doing everything right now. Yep. He's evolving up fairly on stuff. He's getting his energy on board. Yep. He just is trying to build up those Mystic Waters, which, like I said, everything he's doing right now is correct. Triple Poison. And even this is a really minor detail, but he made sure with that Triple Poison that he got the Grass Colorless requirement for it. I think it's Grass Multi, but basically he's getting that 10 damage on. He's not using a DRE, which is actually a pretty big deal because that lets him knock it out with the Flutter Wings, and he doesn't have to bring up a Gorebyss to Mystic Water. If he would have been able to not bench the Gorebyss, like just left it as a Clamperl, I think that would have been better for him. I don't remember the situation. Excuse me. But I think that would have been better for him. But I think he might have had to do that. And sometimes Exploud will play Desert Shaman, so it does get a little tricky, but I don't hate the Weakness Guard. I really don't. I've tried to come up with some different ways to combat things, like that fighting weakness. Weakness Guard isn't bad. I would actually argue Ancient Tomb is probably better. Excuse me, like just try to play 2 to 3 Ancient Tombs, but I don't think it's enough. Like, I really don't think it's enough to, like, win you the Magma matchup. I think Ancient Tomb might be enough to win you the Swampert matchup, but it's not going to be enough to win you the Magma matchup. He's discarding the ATM Rock. I don't hate that play. I think that's probably a pretty good discard for him. He's getting another knockout. And while it does look like the Crobat Gorebyss player is way ahead, we're also seeing situations where that spread damage is coming into effect. He is going to start getting some prize. He's got some chances to get some prizes off of that. So, even, Exploud is one of those decks where, gosh, you can go down 4 or 5 prizes, and all of a sudden, in 1-2 turns, you just take all your prizes. So, goes ahead, plays an Oracle here. It's making me really nervous that we have not seen a Magneton yet. I really think we would have wanted. We really want to see a Magneton here. There it is. Yeah, that's a little... I think he should have gone for that off that first Oracle. Did like a Stevens Magneton, and then just had this set up. I think that consistent energy drawing every single turn would have been a lot better for him. Powering up the Magneton, I don't hate this either. That could be a pretty solid attacker in this matchup. He's spreading here. Yeah, so he's going with the strategy. It's just it's so rough because these trades come back into the Crobat's favor almost every single time. He's just going to bench another Clamperl here, too. Yeah. I would probably throw down that Clamperl. There's really not a reason not to. You do want to start thinking about what if my opponent does have a Desert Shaman. You're not going to bench another Zubat. That Clamperl, I think, would have been a good bench there. I can make an argument for or against benching the or playing the Master Ball too. Play the Town Volunteers. This was needed from him. And so far we haven't seen a Briny as a Warp Energy, Warp Point, anything like that at all. So it is going to be kind of interesting to see what this plays out. That Blossom's going to help because it means he has to retreat into a Gorebyss. To get the knockout, which isn't the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. And this might even be a time where that Crobat Gorebyss player is going to... I guess Shaman's not really that great for him because they've got the Delcatty Magneton engine, but they're just trying to buy themselves a turn. This might even be the turn where they try to Shaman next turn. Goes ahead, does the poison. Yeah, he's got to retreat here. He recognizes that. He can play the Gorebyss. I don't think it's needed. I would definitely bench the Clamperl, though. Yep, and this is the point where he's just feeling more secure on that. He recognizes that if his opponent does take that turn to Mystic Water, it's not going to be great for him. Yeah, opponent brings up the Magneton. Doesn't have the Exploud here, and this is what's really going to start putting the Gorebyss player ahead. Probably just going to kind of be the beginning of the end for the Exploud player here. Played a Copycat. Yep. And I think that the logic behind playing the Gorebyss is he knows that he's not going to get spread on like 4 turns anymore before he can win the game. And then at the exact same time too, he's probably more worried about a Shaman than he is the actual like spread ATM Rock win. I didn't see if he attached. Ideally, he's going to want to spread this turn. This is definitely a spread turn. Yeah, good. And he's going to want to retreat and spread. No way to use Magneton here. Yep. Goes ahead. Gets the spread off. What are we sitting at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he's counting them here himself, but it's not going to be enough. I don't actually... Yeah, the Blossom is going to make it awkward. I'm going to go ahead and play... Yeah, he can Town Volunteers. TV Report is probably a little bit better here. He doesn't have a ton of incentive not to. Not to TV Report. I'd definitely Master Ball here too. Right now, I'm just trying to play around a Desert Shaman from the opponent. I don't want to draw something off of it. Yeah, go and get... Yep, discard that Dunsparce. Yep, triple poison. All around, really, really solid play. This is going to start getting pretty hard for the opponent here. And if I'm him, I mean, he's got to have... Pokemon Nurse is okay. You really needed, like, a Warp Energy there, or... Brinies would have been alright, too. So, yeah, at this point, you just retreat. You definitely wanted to take the knockout here. Opponent is not showing you an Exploud. I would actually probably Shaman this turn, too. Try to put them off that Exploud as much as I can. Play everything down. Do your Zubat, Rare Candy, Crobat. Play down your Gorebyss. Play your hand down. Just completely play your hand down and then Shaman. Do everything you can to put them off that... off the Exploud. If they don't get the Exploud next turn, you basically just win. Yeah, I think he realizes that Deck Out is actually a potential win condition, so I guess I don't hate this play either. Yeah, so he's trying to keep his hand size up. And opponent is just okay. Yeah, he must not have had it, which is weird. I don't think he burned through that many rare candies. What did he play, like 1 candy? 2 maybe? Did he prize 2 rare candies? 2 or 3 candies? But the opponent just went for the deck out? He's got to have a shaman here. He's got to have something. Yeah, that's just going to be game. So what he had to do is as awkward enough as this was, but he basically had to stream 2 more breaking sounds, because that would have gotten 1, 2 prizes, put those both at 40, and then he could have ATM rocked for the knockout. And there wasn't a great way to do that. He would have needed a second Exploud and then some sort of combination of Brinies and Warp Energy to like make that happen. But that was the, I guess, the path to victory there for the Exploud player. I don't know, his prizes must have been a little rough because he should have had a candy in that hand. He had to have prized 2 or 3 candies. And then I just didn't see any Warp Energies out of him, which I think the deck, you have so much room to play Warp Energies. I definitely would have liked to seen a couple Warp Energies in the list if he didn't play them. And then, like I said, I think Nurse is better, but this is definitely one of those matchups where Brinies would have been pretty clutch for him. So, all in all, though, really solid start to the tournament. Both very well played by both players.